glad you're here. My name is Whitney Lee. I'm a developer advocate and I'm a CNCF ambassador. And I'm here with Iris Dimishi. Iris, will you tell us about yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Iris and I'm a senior observability engineer at Miro. And my daily life is building observability platforms.
I'm so glad you're here. So Iris and I just had an almost 2-hour-long conversation where Iris taught me everything there is to know about Prometheus. Well, not everything, but we did our best. And then as Iris taught, I filled up this board with information. And so if you don't have time to watch that whole 2-hour conversation, you can watch this recap instead. We'll tell you what the bottom line of all the information we found. But if you want to watch the longer conversation, that's available to you too, and it will be in the description of this video. So let's get started. Can you tell me, please, what was the world like before Prometheus existed that caused it to be created?
Well, I would jokingly say pure chaos, but of course by that I would mean that there wasn't a lot of standardization like we have right now. We had different query tools that use different languages, and processing was often done at client side, which made the clients very heavy and made it very difficult to query the metrics. So yeah, Prometheus brought a lot of changes.
That's wonderful. So let's say, what is Prometheus?
Well, Prometheus, I have to emphasize that it is an open source tool that helps us to collect, process, and store metrics or time series.
Okay. So then we have questions like digging into that. What exactly is metrics?
Well, metrics are quantitative data points that provide us insights into infrastructure or application, how they're doing, how they're performing, etc.
And then how do you know what to collect metrics about?
Well, it really is a matter of experience and knowing your application and infrastructure well and what you need to observe.
And if you don't have that experience yet, what's a good place to get started?
A good place to get started is always to use the community. What is it called? Instrumentations. Sorry for that. So the community instrumentations. The community provides a lot of instrumentation, a lot of guidelines on how to immediately expose metrics, traces, logs, and make use of that because those are based on a lot of feedback and a lot of contributions from different engineers that have worked throughout this project.
That's awesome. And then I have one more question about the definition of Prometheus. So I understand that it helps with metrics, but you said in the form of time series. What does that part mean?
So time series are metrics, but they're indexed chronologically because time is very important in metrics, as you can imagine.
It seems like almost the most important thing in metrics, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then we got into how Prometheus worked. And I think the question I want to ask about it is, first, how are metrics exposed? How are they made available to Prometheus in the first place?
So each application, each machine, node, it exposes the metrics in a path, in a port and a path that you provide to Prometheus. And basically you write them all in a Prometheus open metrics format, and then they get scraped by Prometheus.
So they're in the open metrics format and they're exposed in a particular directory. Is it a manual process to have to instrument all of everything you want to collect metrics about to be able to expose that information?
No, it is not 100% manual. Sometimes it cannot be manual at all, or it shouldn't be, because there are a lot of frameworks available, as I mentioned earlier, that the community has very gladly provided to us. So for each language, you can use one of the frameworks available, and some default metrics are exposed. But of course, if you'd like some custom metrics, you have to do the work and manually create them. And of course, there are guidelines from the community as well on how to do that.
So we talked about how metrics are exposed. And then we talked about, and it should be pretty easy. Oh, what I was going to say is that I think it's really cool that Prometheus is a CNCF graduated project, but it's been around 11 years. So there have been a lot of people have figured out how to make this awesome. and you can lean on their knowledge, and I love that. So now that metrics are exposed, we talked about having a way to push metrics or a way to have Prometheus pull the metrics. Let's talk about the push-based method first. What's that like?
So Prometheus by itself does not support getting metrics via remote write or via push, but there is a good friend of Prometheus called Prometheus Push Gateway, which is like an extension of Prometheus that can be used as a gateway that applications that are short-lived it's mostly about jobs that push all their metrics to Prometheus Push Gateway. And then what Prometheus Push Gateway does, it exposes these metrics for Prometheus to scrape. This way, we do not lose any metrics, even for jobs that are so short-lived that Prometheus cannot scrape themselves.
So pull-based metrics is scraping. So scraping metrics is pooling metrics. It's the same thing. And for that, we talked about a scrape configuration. So what's a scrape configuration?
So a scrape configuration is a configuration that tells Prometheus what targets to scrape. Basically, it can be an IP address, it can be a DNS, in what port and in what path it is supposed to scrape these metrics.
Okay. So now we have the metrics exposed and we have them scraped. And then we talked about Prometheus and Kubernetes. And let's talk about that. You have a Prometheus operator that introduces this new custom resource called a service monitor. Tell me about that custom resource.
So service monitors are custom resources that are usually associated with the Helm charts of your application. They are usually generally available by default, but they're very easy to create as well. And what they are, it's a resource that the Prometheus and Prometheus operator find it, and it gives them instruction on the name of your application that you would like to be scraped, the path, and the port where the metrics are being exposed. Then usually the onboarding of these applications, as long as they have a service monitor, is automatic. So you don't need to do anything manually to get the metrics for your application once you have a service monitor.
And you said one thing that's cool about this is you said they're super widely used. So if you're even adding like a third-party tool to your cluster, it's likely already going to have a service monitor as a part of it, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
On the topic of Prometheus and Kubernetes, we also talked about the Prometheus stack. Tell me about that.
So Prometheus stack is like a mix of very good tools and very good friends of Prometheus, as I would call them. And it includes the Prometheus itself, Prometheus operator. It also adds Alert Manager, which is the tool that redirects alerts to the different endpoints that we would like. It has the template of Grafana, which is the open source tool for better visualization. Even though Prometheus UI is a tool of visualization, Grafana is a lot better, and it's very widely used right now. It also has the exporters, because there are some sort of technologies, for example, some databases, Redis, are not able to expose metrics themselves for Prometheus to scrape them. So there are special exporters that exposes metrics on behalf of the database, let's say. And at the same time, we also have Thanos Ruler, which is sometimes we use it for evaluation of alerts. It is not as accurate as Prometheus in evaluating, but we use it sometimes for metrics that have a long period of evaluation, which Prometheus sometimes cannot do, depending on the retention in storage.
Awesome. So then we talked about visualization. So visualization, it includes, of course, dashboards, which is what I think of when I think of in visualization, but it also includes alerts and queries. So it's basically like your reward for the hard work you've done collecting all the information. Now you can use the information to help you understand your system. So in terms of visualization, let's start with talking about actually alerting. So we can use visualization as part of alerting. Tell me about the Prometheus alerting in Prometheus.
So how alerting works in Prometheus, you have some alerting rules, expressions as we call them, that are written in PromQL, which is the language that Prometheus uses for querying. And Prometheus evaluates these alerts, and if they get triggered, for example, there is a condition, if the condition is met, these alerts get pushed to Alert Manager. And Alert Manager is more like a tool that sends the alerts in different endpoints, and sometimes that happens based on labels. For example, if your alert has a label of a namespace X, you can tell Alert Manager that if an alert with the label namespace X is triggered, please send it to this Slack channel or to this PagerDuty or to this Ops Genie channel. So basically, what it does, it sends alerts to the designated space, and it makes it very easy to maintain alerting in general.
Amazing. And then in terms of dashboards and other types of visualization, let's talk about that. Let's talk about it generally speaking. Like who cares about dashboards? Like who's in charge of it?
Well, everyone should care about dashboards, but the main stakeholders, of course, should be the owners of the applications, because nobody knows the applications as good as you are. So you shouldn't be expecting someone else to build a dashboard or a visualization for your application and for it to be effective. I cannot go and create a dashboard for some team that I have no idea what their application looks like. So it is crucial the owners to be the owners of the application as well.
And then to be able to query your metrics, it's important to know what types of metrics to have available. That's important for querying and for building dashboards. So let's get into the types of metrics. You said there are 4 types.
Yes. So the 4 types of metrics are counters. It's a value that always grows. The gauge, which are values that go up and down. For example, memory usage is a gauge. And then we have histograms and summaries, which are a little bit more complex. For example, the histograms, we use them to create percentiles, and usually the data is distributed into buckets. And summaries, it's self-explanatory. It provides summaries, for example, totals of the information of the data we have.
And then you told me about cardinality, and you said high cardinality can negatively affect visualization. What does that mean exactly?
So high cardinality, or cardinality in general, is the amount of time series is stored or processed depending on the number of labels. And usually for each label, you have one time series stored. So imagine if you have 10 labels and each of them have 1,000 different values, it would be millions and millions of time series is stored. And you can only imagine trying to query this information. It is very expensive and very memory and CPU consuming, so the performance is not great. So we very often need to check the cardinality to see why it is so high, and if we have to drop some of the labels if they're not important for us. And in some cases, some things shouldn't even be a metric because the information that they're giving is not important enough for us to handle this much cardinality for a metric.
So talking about dropping data leads me to the next part. So we have this scrape config that tells Prometheus what to scrape and how often. And then relatedly, we have a relabel config. Tell me about the relabel config.
The relabel config is an extra configuration we add to the scrape config, which tells Prometheus what to do and how to handle the metrics. For example, you can drop metrics, you can drop labels based on the name of the metric or the name of the label. You can add new labels if needed, and you can also change them and edit them, for example, their name, if it's not something that is explanatory to you or to your team. Even if it's something by default, you can change it. So basically what it does is it changes the information in your metrics before it is being scraped. And this is good because Prometheus itself can suffer from performance, even if it is just collecting and the processing is done in another part of your application or architecture. So it is important that Prometheus does not collect all this information, for example, if it is with high cardinality. So yeah, it is very important to take control of it and do checkups from time to time so nothing misses you and messes up your application.
That's awesome. And it also sounds like you don't have to modify then what exactly you're scraping. You don't have to modify your collection. You like the instrumentation itself. You can use a relabel config to do that, which seems
most
great.
of the time the best change is to be done in the application itself, but sometimes it's not possible. So we have this extra tool that is a great tool that Prometheus offers us.
And then I saved Prometheus Architectures for last because it makes you very excited, and I like that. And also, it's like, okay, I'm sold. This is amazing. I want to use it. And now how do I use it? So first we talked about what you do if you are small scale and just want to try it. What type of Prometheus architecture would you want in that case?
You could use a standalone Prometheus architecture, just run a Prometheus. Actually, if you run the Prometheus stack that we spoke about earlier, it is a Helm chart. You just run it in your Kubernetes cluster and you're going to have an observability platform built. But of course, this is for small scale.
And then you talked about a federated architecture. Tell me about that.
So federated Prometheus is when we have when we have a big scale architecture in the first place, and in each of the cluster, let's say Kubernetes, we have deployed a Prometheus, and we call them leaves. And then we have a central cluster where we have the federated Prometheus, which scrapes the metrics that are collected by these leaves. So it is a great way to have distribution, but at the same time, it can be quite heavy for Prometheus to handle the data from this many applications, especially if we have a huge scale of architecture.
Okay, so it's a cool idea, but it's a problem with all of the data when you have a super large amount of data. To have all that data in one place, it's hard to manage. And so that brings us to Thanos. What is Thanos?
So Thanos is a great friend of Prometheus. We always see them running together. For example, if you're speaking about Thanos, that means that you are running Prometheus alongside as well. And it is a great tool because it is very distributed, first of all, and it offers us a lot of great tools. The first one is Thanos Sidecar, which runs alongside Prometheus and gets all the metrics from Prometheus. Then we have Thanos Query, which queries this data. We have Thanos Compactor that compacts this data and then which stores it in an S3 bucket or an Azure storage, or some other storage of your preference, which is very cheap and very light for long-term retention. But what I like the most about Thanos is that it is a very distributed architecture. If you are running Thanos Query in, let's say again that we have 100 Kubernetes clusters and we're running Thanos Query in each of these clusters alongside Thanos Store and compaction. So this data compacted is saved in S3 buckets, but you don't have to go to each Thanos and query the data in each of them. No, you can have a central Thanos query that is able to query the data from all the other Thanos stores in the other clusters, which makes it easier because you don't have to pull all this data in one place, but it is smart enough, let's say, to be able to query in the local cluster where the metric is running, and usually makes big scale architectures very easier and, of course, better to maintain when it is a huge amount of metrics.
Yeah, less costly and more streamlined overall. That's wonderful. So we've reached the end of the board. My next question is, where can I go if I want to see some demos or work through some demos?
Prometheus.io, you have everything included there. You have demos, you have the GitHubs, you have the documentations, and if you have any questions and you need some assistance or just a friendly person to help you with everything, also in the CNCF Slack channels on Prometheus, you can find all this information as well, and all these contributors and users of Prometheus.
So go to the CNCF Slack workspace and then find the Prometheus channel. Awesome. That's a wrap. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's just that Prometheus is an amazing tool, and it's no surprise that this is being used so much right now, and it is the standard for metrics at the moment.
Amazing. I appreciate your enthusiasm and your knowledge, and thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise with us. And thanks everyone for watching. Bye.